Morning, fellow zombies. Are we alive yet? Are we awake yet? Are we emotionally screwed up and sleep deprived? Because I sure as hell am. It's 2:37 in the morning, West Coast time. It is the 8th of March, 2025 for Saturday. We were down to see Roseman, California. How you guys doing today? Okay, a lot of things I was coming across that was kind of affecting me one way or another. There had been attacks on the First Amendment that's really gotten me pissed off. A couple of independents picked up on it. One of them was an attorney, former attorney, and he's pissed and he's going off the rails, and I don't blame him for this shit. How would you like to have a prestigious law firm getting told by the Department of Justice not to do anything regarding DEI at all? It's illegal, and if they do it, there will be consequences. Well, it's gotten some of the people very pissed off about this one, but it hasn't been covered in the corporate media or legacy media, however you want to talk about these guys. Because Georgetown University is a private school. It's a private university. It's a it's a religious school basically. Much like a few campuses I know that are Christian, and they have their strict guidelines of what code of ethics, code of behavior is. And this is basically a law school, right in the midst of Washington D.C. And in a nice, kindly, sweet letter, it's like, "Hi, I come across an article of your regarding your school and the DEI situation. Can you do us a favor and please you do this and it'll threaten your school every which way and the students? I know we can come to a compromise that you're not going to do this thing. And have a nice day. Oh, if you have any questions, if you want to arrange an interview with me, we'll talk. Just contact me and we'll talk. Thank you for your cooperation." And this is the head of the Department of Justice is doing this shit. So how would you like it if you're at a campus, and I go to a campus, when I could actually walk over there, and being told that there are going to be classes and courses going to be taken out because they're afraid of repercussions. Now, my campus is public. It gets public funding, it gets bond measures, and it gets school aid to to operate. And it's supported by the public, by the local community. It's a community college. It's not prestigious. It's not grandiose. Its name is not out there for people to recognize, and yet it's a recognizable college. Out here in the Antelope Valley, it was one of two colleges that we actually had. We had the University of Antelope Valley, which was a private school, basically technical trade, not mechanics, but in other aspects of it that people would learn about. It's not like you're trying to get an AA degree in English Lit, but if you're trying to get an 8 week or 10 week course in, say, medical transcription, you know, or something else, they could do it. Workers' comp retraining. Of course, you would qualify for a certain portion of it, but then you had to turn yourself in hock over for something else, and I decided not to. I went to that particular school when it was in operation a few years back, and it was a rival in the college out here in the Antelope Valley being a college. So we had rival sports happening. We respected their campus, and they disrespected ours. Uh, but they had gone away because COVID knocked our ass out. Funding and everything else was gone, so they went away. They closed down operations without even telling the students about it, and the administration just disappeared. Been there for years, and they did a fly-by-night situation on that one. So, and then you got our Antelope Valley College had been there for a lot longer, a lot of decades. And over the past decade in itself, they've gotten better and better at their fire training, police academy, and mechanics. A lot of mechanical courses for bus, train, flight. We got a nearby airstrip that they would use for our college campus, Fox Airfield. Sometimes Plant 42, but mostly Fox. They catered to the public, including giving them classes on how to be an integral part of a culture, have diversity, be equal. Yeah, they believe in it. They're liberal. They're wokeism. According to what the idiots in the far right would say all the time. But they offer a substantial education, different formats, different teachers. But it's like, how would I like it if the Department of Justice one day decided that a local community college is going to be targeted? And that students, if they keep up with the DEI education, and part of the curriculums we have are DEI. I'm going to say it. If we were in historical, if we're doing AA degrees in history or in literature, we're doing DEI in it. We're doing diversity, equity, and integration. We're learning about different cultures. We're learning about different aspects. The class I have right now is African American Studies. Well, it's literature, but it's basically studies. First 5 weeks was talking about rap artists and comedians of this time period. And I've heard rap music for a long while, and I still can't stand the damn shit. I'm in the old time Motown. I grew up with actors that I'd seen from different stages of different various cultures. A lot of diversity. Hollywood was like that. But Hollywood, they wanted, back in the 50s, Hollywood to be one way, anti communist. They made a movie about that one back in the 90s. Robert De Niro was in it. And he didn't like it. His character, I didn't like the movie because it was ugly. And it should have been ugly because back in the 50s it was ugly, especially when we had this mindset from a lunatic senator saying we have to be American. We're going to have the un-American council or something like that in hearings and determine if someone's American or not in every which way, shape, or form. And this one guy's delusion here. We're doing it right now. We're doing it right now. We're having the Department of Justice going after schools left and right and accusing them, or actually threatening them, that if they happen to start teaching, or if they continue teaching diversity, equity, and integration, there's going to be bad things happening. The school's fighting back, saying that you're going against the First Amendment here. Department of Justice saying, "No, we're not. This is an executive order by the President of the United States. It's not a rule. It's not a regulation. It's an executive order and we have to obey it. Bite me on that one, asshole. But how would you like it if your school was was going to be changed overnight because of fear mongering, because what may happen versus what is going to happen? It's one thing when you're making a threat of illusions here. It's another thing to make the threat and actually make it real. When you're going to be threatening someone else's civil liberties, you're going to be in for one hell of a fight. Even if it's a private entity or a public entity, you got it right. Basically, what happens if I said, I'm going to throw this out as an example here, that everybody who's not a Star Trek fan will be suffering the severe punishment. And I'm making an absolute statement here of my intentions. Let's say, for example, I was part of the Department of Justice. And being part of a cabinet that's really into mental illness, I am going to enforce my will and my dictate because I control the Department of Justice at this point. And let's just say that I am going to go to every school, every university, everywhere else, and I'm going to make the absolute threat to them. There is an executive order by our president of that particular whatever the hell he is, and telling people that you either comply or else, and leave the threat out there. Now, here's the thing about this example. Let's get it more specific. I have an executive order that tells people that you will believe in Star Trek and not Star Wars, any way, shape, or form of it. If so, you will be denigrated, you will be humiliated, you will be humbled, you will be broken down, you will be insulted. In any way, shape, or form we happen to see any Star Wars, we're going to arrest you for that. We're going to enforce this rule. We're going to tell the local law enforcement, let alone the federal, that we'll be looking out and looking to see and arrest people who are Star Wars fans. And me being the head of the Department of Justice, following the orders of the chief lunatic we have in the presidency, but I don't dare say that to him. He's a Star Wars fan and he'll be dealt with accordingly. But I'm saying, because I am a Star Trek fan, I am forcing this down people's throat. You will obey or else. I'm going onto a college campus right now, today, at this particular time period. And I'm going to walk over to the dean. I'm going to walk over to the administrator. And I'm going to tell him, you can't do anything science fiction here unless it discusses Star Trek at all times. Let me make it clear that I am making this executive order your order. I don't care if you're in elementary school, public or private. I don't care if you're at college, public or private. I'm telling you, you will obey. And you won't say a word about it. You won't complain about it. Otherwise, we're going to be extremely unpleasant to you, being the Department of Justice. And don't get any sympathies from the courts. We will get to them next. You think I might be turning this example into a joke, but it's no joke. Not about the Star Trek versus Star Wars. I'm using that as an analogy. But I am saying that with this damn DEI crap going on, so the president's, or should I say, so the lunacy that we have inside our administration right now, they are forcing people not to learn about other cultures because it's illegal. It's like ignoring the Native Americans. Now, let me just put this in as an example here. What if the United States decided, through the Department of Justice, to actually go onto the reservations and tell them they are no longer able to be Native Americans? And we will have several federal departments and possibly the military to enforce this. Now, the Native Americans had been here well before we got into place. This was their land. This is their home. And we had a war with the Indians, and we won. We brainwashed them, and then tried to re-educate them, and then found out we still wanted their culture, so we brainwashed them again, and tried to re-educate them back into their old culture. And they found out ways on how to integrate, at least some of them anyway, but the rest of them stuck on tribal lands that are inhospitable. We forced this down their throat. Do you think to this day we actually give that a credence? How long did it take us? How many decades it took us to get past Columbus Day? Columbus Day was this explorer that we all celebrated, and it was Columbus Day, we have a vacation day. And not realizing this asshole came across the waters, sanctioned by European countries, shall I say, to explore a new trade route to get over to Asia. They thought the world was smaller. They found the Caribbean islands, and then all hell broke loose. And because what was happening in the Caribbean islands is probably closer to South America and North America area, the legend of Columbus, from a famous explorer turned dirtbag. In my adulthood, I learned about the dirtbag portion of it. But as a kid growing up, a famous explorer we celebrated. But in a Native American culture, bad news all around. Bad juju. Diseases from Europe was conquering people in the new land, or in North American continent. Conversion into a different religion when they had their own. Rape, kill, pillage, burn, pilfer, plunder, all in the name of their governments. So what would happen if the Native American culture disappeared entirely? All the information gone. We almost came to that particular point of the Black American history, Black women American, Black American women, their history, their contributions, their struggles, being wiped out because of the DEI executive order. It came all the way through the military, and they're still having to struggle with that. But they got a different Secretary of Defense to tell them that they have to cancel all DEI. United States Air Force Museum had portions of it dedicated to the Tuskegee Airmen. Tuskegee Airmen helped win the war in Europe. They were Black American. It was an experimental program happened in World War II. We needed to get more pilots out there. Why not train the Black Americans? Give them a chance. Eleanor Roosevelt was king on that one, and so was her husband. And they trained them, educated, trained them, and sent them out to Europe. Instead of joining up with some of the white uh, Hard for me to say this one, isn't it? We had white air groups, and then we had black air groups. Tuskegee Airmen. And these red tails earned, earned their reputations, their dignity, their respect. Not just pretty trinkets of medals, but no, honor. Earned a hell of a lot of honor out there. And they were just as good as the white pilots out there. Black pilots and white pilots, my God. Scary, isn't it? It was almost just as bad enough as saying the black servitude people on the military vessels, both commercial, private. There's even a few war heroes in World War, actually in the start of World War II for us in the Pacific, when Pearl Harbor got nailed. There had been a cook trying to help his fellow sailors. He took to a 50 cal, and he fought like hell. His actions were not blinded, but it took him a long while for him to get credited for his actions and his bravery and his sacrifices. Well, but this guy ought to stand proud out there in memory. But that memory being scorched because of DEI, because of someone else's ignorance and arrogance and indifference in the White House. This racial shit's really getting to me at this point. It's getting to me at this point where I can't stand looking at another white person. Because I don't know if they're going to be racial or not. And I have to keep asking myself the question, am I that racial as well? I have tendencies. I have tendencies. I'm not saying I can be turned at any time, but I had been at one time or another in my youth. And then in my adulthood, I'd seen the cultural differences left and right. There's a major reason why I have to take courses that talk about the things I am having struggles with. I need to see the struggle through their eyes and understand through them. It's a way of trying to deal with the ignorance and arrogance and indifference I have inside of me. I don't like rap music. But the thing is, I grew up under Motown Soul. I listened to the music back in the 50s when it came out on classic radios. I also listened to the orchestras. I listened to musicians sing and play their instruments. I'd seen black actors win awards for film and television. And I grew up admiring them. Admiring the different cultures that they represented. And not just black Americans. Not just blacks. Latina as well. I use the term Latino because I know of the Latin descent from Spain that came over to Central and South America, not to mention to the Caribbean islands. Made their mark, spread all the way through America. And the differences and enrichments that they made to our own culture here in this country. Some people don't like it, but they make fun of it. If they think they like this particular portions of food, they'll make fun of the damn thing because they think it's funny. Ignorant bastards. I grew up under the American bastardized versions of Mexican food out here. Taco Bell was one of them. Del Taco. The term taco, you get a fried piece of, or fried tortilla, have it folded, bended, dipped in hot oil. It comes back up as a hard, crunchy shell, and you shove stuff into it. The American bastardized version of it. But the other form of tacos is where you make it out of masa and water. Pound, mix, put them into a tortilla making machine. You have your wax paper there. You make your flattened tortillas between two wax pieces of paper. And then they get dried out and they get warmed up on a skillet or flat iron to where they're able to be manipulated, stuffed. And I grew up under that too. I grew up under where there was enchiladas, where you have soft tortillas you warmed up and you shoved stuff into them, roll them up, ladled with sauces, exotic. Well, maybe not for a typical Californian. Bacon comes out, cheese covered on top with salsa all over it, and it was food. We did hamburger, roll a hamburger or a package of hamburger, throw in some sauce, throw in some cheese and olives or some other things to throw in there. Wrapped them up, put them in a baking dish, several of them, and then cooked them. And that was our version of Mexican. Or else we'd go to Pop and Taco. A Southland restaurant popped up all over the place. I think between the 50s and 70s, actually to 80s or 90s actually. They got bought out by another food chain. But in that place, they served hot dogs, they served hamburgers, and they served tacos. The American bastardized version of a taco. Hard, crunchy shell. With the meat and the lettuce and the cheese and the sauce on top of it. And I listened to mariachi on once in a while when there was music being played across the street from a neighbor or passing car. But I also listened to Motown. I listened to Aretha Franklin, The Temptations, Earth, Wind and Fire, Marvin Gaye, Cab Calloway, Louis Armstrong, going back. So I got exposed to that music. And there's nothing wrong with the music. It was about our heritage. It was about the heritage of being an American, being a Californian, being a Southern Californian. You grew up under different communities like this. Some of them actually did. You could actually thrive and grow a family. In other communities were pain in the asses because you had the gangs out there with anger and hatred and roving around trying to prove that they're the fear and terror in everyone else's lives. If you wore a different color and spoke a different language or spoke a different way, you're open season. Gang wars happening. Anger and hatred all around. Kind of surprised we actually lived and survived through that shit. I am. It takes a hell of a long while for society to wake itself up from a nightmare and realize we're all we got. Why are we trying to kill each other? There was a group called War that did a song of Why Can't We Be Friends, and also a song of war. That song was also used in the fourth movie of Lethal Weapon, one with Mel Gibson, Danny Glover in it. It was at the end of the film. But that music had been out there for decades. You talk about DEI. We had it for all along. I never could understand why people are so angry and hatred and fearful of each other. We couldn't be friends. We couldn't be acquaintances. We have to be enemies because that's the only way fear and ignorance understands it. We've had that damn thing happening all over our lifetimes. Hell, generations after generations. We never quite get past the damn shit. I don't get it with their anger and hatred. Actually, I do get it with the anger and hatred because one had to go through it to understand how stupid it is. But I had to tell you, sometimes it's ingrained. It has to be constantly fought on every damn level. Every damn level. That being said,